Pretend that God, for the sake of argument, allows all these evil things to happen because somehow they benefit us. Well, what if we don't want that benefit? Why doesn't God give us the choice to just enjoy the stuff that we like and keep the evil all to himself? Let's consider. Hello, philosophers. I'm Chico. Welcome to the Philosopher Show, where we consider the greatest questions of human history. Now, we're nearing the end of our section on the logical problem of evil. How could a good God allow evil to exist? And we've seen some possible reasons for believing that God might allow evil to exist because it benefits us. And yet, we're left with this question: what if we don't want the benefit that the evil might bring? Shouldn't God just leave us alone with this evil stuff? Is it like our parents forcing us to go to piano lessons because it's good for us when we really just wanted to play football with our lives? Why doesn't God just give us the choice? You can either have evil things that will benefit your life or just not have those evil things and have an okay life. Why don't we get that choice to start off with? And actually, things get a lot worse than that, because God, being, by hypothesis, an all-powerful being that can make stuff out of nothing, it wouldn't even inconvenience him to give us the things that we want and to take away the things that we don't want. So why doesn't God allow that kind of a choice for us? So let's pretend like God did give us that choice, and we could tell him just, okay, keep the evil to yourself, let me have all the stuff that I want, and then we'll call it a life. So what would that look like? What would you wish for? In fact, that's one of the questions I like to ask my philosophy students in class is, if you could wish for one thing, what would you wish for? And a lot of students have different kinds of answers that they would give. Some people ask for stuff, right? It's important things to them, surfboards, or if it were me, I would ask for a 64 Impala with a drop top 64 Impala. Oh, I'd be so sick, right? Just to throw your boys in the back and cruise to the beach. Some people, they have a specific kind of a job they think is important. And if they get that kind of a job, they feel like that's going to be fulfilling. That will make me happy. For me, I love philosophy. Maybe I would wish to be the best philosopher in the world. Some people want money, and it's like, they could wish for just stuff, but the security that the money brings and the choices that they can make with that, they want that specific kind of a thing. So even though they could wish for stuff, they wish for money. Some people will wish for things in the romance department, like a specific kind of a person to fall in love with them, or possibly some less noble kinds of things that people will wish for. Lots of kinds of things, right? Some people want fame. Some people want to be the best athlete or the best actor in the world, and they want everybody to know their name. I don't know. There's all kinds of things that you could wish for. Let's say you got all those kinds of things. One problem might be that eventually the kinds of things that you like right now might change later on in the future. So, for example, although the 6'4" Impala would be insane, it'd be so fun, probably like 10, 20 years down the road, I'm looking at other cars like, what also would be cool? It would be if I had like this kind of a car. And probably like different kinds of cars, right? Maybe an SUV. I'm not into SUVs, but something maybe a little bit different from what I have. Or maybe you look at the kind of job that you do, and maybe you enjoy philosophy for 40 years, just being the best philosopher ever. And then at the end of that time, you start to think like, I wish I could do something different, something just a little bit different from what I've been doing for all this time. Or another problem might be that even though those things don't get old, the things that you're wishing for, maybe they just aren't as fulfilling as you thought they might be, or maybe they're just not sufficient for what you thought they would be. So for example, I'm very happily married. I feel like I got that wish in the romance department. My wife is incredible. And it's not that I would ever want to not be married to my wife. That'd be awful. That'd be horrific. I would hate that. But when we first got married, it was so exciting and I thought like, I just could be with this person and not do anything else, and that would make me happy for the rest of my life, just sitting here in this room. And it does make me very happy to sit in the same room as my wife. But I also want to do other things now. It's not just the focusing on that relationship. It's me and her doing things together as well, living life and growing as people. So although my marriage is very important for my happiness, I wouldn't say that it's sufficient for my happiness. It seems like there are other things that I also require for happiness. But let's say we could get around that too. What if you got everything you wanted and just when you wanted it? Wouldn't that be cool, right? Like you could just wish for it and there it was. And there was this really cool, you probably don't even know what this is, but the Twilight Zone was this old school show that black and white, that it was just weird stuff that would happen on it. Kind of like Black Mirror, but not even close to as cool. But in any case, there's this one episode called A Nice Place to Visit. And this guy gets shot and killed, and all of a sudden his guardian angel shows up and says to him, hey, here I am. I'm here to help you and guide you into this next life that you're going to be in. And we're staying at a casino. This guy was a gangster, by the way. And like, we're talking about the gangsters from the, with the Tommy guns, not the gangsta. But so they go to this casino, and he's got the top suite, and he goes down to gamble, and he's given the money to gamble, and he wins every single time. And that is just insane, right? This is a guy that never won anything. No, he wins all the time. And he tells the guy that, he wants dames, lots of dames. And all these girls just show up, and every girl loves him, and he gets everything that he ever wanted all the time. And after a while, he starts to, when he just keeps winning and winning, you can imagine like what that would be like if you're just constantly getting just all the money that you want and all the girls. There's nothing that you want that you couldn't have. Eventually, you get kind of bored, right? Eventually, you're looking around like, is this it? Is this all there is? And in fact, at the end of that episode, he tells the guardian angel guy, like, look, I don't think I'm in the right spot. I think that this heaven stuff isn't for me. I think I belong in the other place. This is like the 50s or so you're not allowed to say hell on TV. I belong in the other place. And the guy says, what makes you think that this is heaven? This is the other place. Ha, ha, ha. Nefarious laugh. Well, that is actually a fascinating idea. Imagine hell as getting everything that you ever wanted, and you realize that it's not enough. Doesn't matter what you were pursuing, it's just not sufficient to make you happy. How crazy would that be? And yet it seems like all the things that we pursue in life, all the things that we would wish for, it doesn't seem like any of them would fill this need. So if you don't believe me, believe somebody that does have it all. In 2005, Tom Brady was interviewed famously about his success. At that point, he had 3 Super Bowl rings, supermodel girl. He had all kinds of money, obscene amounts of money, very famous. He had all those things that you think that you would want in life. And he was asked about it, and he said, yeah, I just still think like there's no way this can be it. This can't be it. There's got to be something more out there. Well, what more can you want, right? What more can you ask for? There really isn't anything more. And me watching that video, all I could think was, wow, if Tom Brady is not satisfied with all that stuff, you could have all that kind of stuff and still not be satisfied. There's no way I'm achieving all that stuff. So really what I'm saying here is that we have these desires for the things of this world, and the more that we spend time with them, the more that we actually get those things, we find out that they're not going to cut it, right? They're not going to make us happy. And that's not even to mention the fact that the things of this world could easily be lost. I taught 11 years of philosophy at a place that I really loved. I loved teaching the class. I loved my students. I had so much fun. And then one day my job was cut. I didn't do anything wrong. I did everything I was supposed to. I was doing a great job, and my job was just cut. And all of a sudden, I went from steady paycheck, knowing what I was going to do in the afternoon. I'd come home and surf with the boys, and I had everything set up so nicely. Everything was taken away. I've spent the last 2 years of my life just piecemealing paychecks together by tutoring absurd stuff. And I'm starting to get more teaching gigs, and the coming fall, I'm going to be teaching at a brand new university out here in California. But these things were taken away so easily. It was shocking to me that how fast something can just change, how fast you have it all and it just is gone. And that's not even to mention the fact that eventually we die. That sounds very stark, but think about that. Even if nothing bad ever happens to you, even if you never lose your job, you cruise through life and it's awesome and no suffering happens. Still, it's the case that you will lose everything. You will lose your job. You will lose your spouse. You will lose your house. You'll lose all that stuff because one day you're going to die. And not to say that, I want to live forever with these things. In fact, sometimes I have intense anxiety. And I know in the worst of my times, I kind of just am like, yeah, I kind of would be down for this to be just over, so I just wouldn't have to suffer. It's not though that I want to die. It's not that I like dying. I want to live. I just don't want this pain, right? I want happiness. That's what I want. I want happiness and I don't want it to go away. I want to live like that forever without ever getting bored, without ever losing the stuff that makes me happy. So here's the issue. Even if we got all the stuff that we wanted, it seems like that stuff is not going to be enough. The things of this world at best provide temporary and limited happiness. We get bored with them eventually. They can't sustain us forever in this kind of happiness. And we eventually lose them, if not in losing your job or something bad happening to you, eventually in death. You're not always going to have the stuff you want. So it seems like the things of this world can't give us the stuff that we deeply desire, which is this inexhaustible happiness. So what kind of a thing could give me this inexhaustible happiness? What would even make sense here? I mean, the things that we know about are all limited in their goodness. They eventually get boring. We eventually get sick of them, or at the very least, they end up not being sufficient eventually. There's some point where we've had them for long enough and they just don't do it for us anymore. So it would have to be something that is not limited in that way, right? Something that the more you look at it, the better it gets. The more you look at it, just keeps blowing your mind. Like, oh my gosh, it just got better. It can't get better. Oh, yes, it just got better than that. Oh my god. Something that's that mind-blowing, that is constantly able to, one-up itself. Something that's unlimited in its goodness, or another word for unlimited is infinite in its goodness. Also, the things of this world are temporary. They can be lost very easily. This would have to be something that couldn't be lost, something that is, in other words, eternal, something that will always be there. And not just eternal, but also that I couldn't lose it. And death would be one of those things about losing it. So it would have to be able to make me eternal. It would have to be able to be me and this thing always together, and the longer I'm with this thing, the better it gets. Like in the end of Chronicles of Narnia, I don't know if you ever read that book, but Lewis says it's like the best book you ever read, and it never ends, and each chapter is better than the last. Each chapter, you're just, I got better. Oh my gosh. That would be the kind of a thing that would be providing inexhaustible happiness. And of course, the thing that I mean by that is God. God would be that infinite being, infinitely good, eternal, created all things, so was able to sustain us in life for as long as he wants to, including throughout eternity. And it may seem weird me saying like, God is this thing that you keep looking at and keeps blowing your mind, and you keep, whoa, it just got better. I don't know how this keeps happening. What would that be like? I have no idea. I'll tell you when I get to heaven. I'll explain it all. I'll send back some videos. But the idea is, by hypothesis, that would be what God is, an infinite being that is infinitely good. So there's no limit to its goodness, no limit to the wonder that you can get from this thing, and no limit to its life. It would always exist, so you could never lose it. So only an eternal, infinitely good, immortal making being could provide inexhaustible happiness. But only God could be eternal, infinitely good, and immortal making. So only God could provide us the thing that we most deeply desire. And this is very akin, I'm pretty sure it was Augustine that said this, but don't quote me on this, and I'm not going to go back and check, so look it up for yourselves, but that we are made with a God-shaped hole in our hearts, and we're never sufficiently happy unless we have that filled with God. In other words, like, that's the only thing that can truly give us this thing that we desire. By the way, quick technical detail, and I'm not sure if you thought about this, but if you were worried, like, isn't he assuming that God exists in this second part of the argument in order to make the argument go further? That's not quite what's happening here. This is, remember, a response to the logical problem of evil. How could a good God allow evil to exist? And it's like it's something like this. The logical problem of evil says evil exists. Pretend, for the sake of argument, that God exists. Well, now we have this trouble over here. This irreconcilable differences here, so therefore God doesn't exist. Well, the megaphone argument that I'm talking about here would say, okay, evil exists, good. Pretend God exists for the sake of this argument, okay. Now there is a trouble between evil and God existing, and the megaphone argument would step in right there and say, whoa, no, I disagree. I don't think that there is this trouble that you're talking about. So it's not assuming the existence of God. That's what the logical problem of evil is doing in order to generate this problem in the first place. It's more just taking it from the logical problem of evil and showing, oh, we don't have this problem that the logical problem of evil says that we have. If I were to assume the existence of God and it was using this megaphone response to prove that God exists, that would be begging the question. So anyway, back to the actual stuff. So if God is the only thing that can provide this happiness, this inexhaustible happiness that we all most deeply desire, you may wonder, well, then why doesn't everybody pick God, right? Why do so many people reject God? Well, have you ever had the experience that you felt like, dude, if I just get this one thing that I really want, I'll be set. Like if I just get this, I talked about the 6'4" Impala, really, but sometimes there are other things there's surfboards. Whenever I use a surfboard example, I have a surfboard rack back here, so like I'm constantly looking over there, and that's where I get my examples from. So I remember I recently got this chocolate fish over here, sick board. But before that, there was this Lost board that I really was coveting, right? I was looking at that thing like, dude, that's what I want. That's the one board. It's going to solve all my problems. I'll be able to use it wherever I want to, called the Quiver Killer. So you can use it whenever, in any conditions, supposedly. And I thought, as soon as I get that thing, I'll be set. I won't have to worry about another thing. But of course, eventually you start to feel like, okay, yeah, I got this thing. It's great. I love it. But there are other things I kind of want, right? And you go from that one thing to looking at something else and saying, hey, I really want that one thing. And it doesn't have to necessarily be another surfboard. I recently bought this Saints hat, which I love. I think it's pretty cool. But I agonized over it for a while because, it's summertime. We don't really get great paychecks in the summer. So I'm looking at it like, yeah, but it's a really cool hat. If I just get this hat, right, then I'll just be set for the summer. I'll feel good. And of course you buy that thing and eventually it's not. So it's weird. It's like you get this sort of little, this feeling that of brief happiness, and you think like, okay, that's filled me, and then you go to another thing and you keep going from one thing to another thing. And in that way, the things of this world can be very deceptive. You might be continuously pursuing them even though they don't ultimately fill you up. So this is very much like alcoholism. I'm an alcoholic, and that's a weird thing to share on YouTube, so I apologize if that's funky. But in any case, there was towards the end, I haven't had a drink in like 17 years. So at the end of my mania here, I was drinking heavily, and I couldn't ever get drunk. I couldn't ever get truly drunk, right? I didn't get that feeling that I really wanted. I would have a couple of beers or something like that, or a couple shots, and then I'd feel a little bit buzzed, and then I'd keep going, and then I just wouldn't feel it, and I just keep plowing. And even though I wasn't getting that euphoria that I really wanted, the next night I would binge again, just, I don't know, going from binge to binge to binge, just thinking like, okay, this is going to be the one that satisfies me. This is going to be the one that makes me happy. And it just never does. So if that's the case, if we're constantly being led from one thing to another, from wanting physical things to maybe wanting romance, to maybe wanting that special job, and you constantly go from one thing thinking all these things are going to fill you up, but they never do, how do we break the habit? How do we shake ourselves out of this kind of mentality, this illusion that we have that things of this world are going to make us happy? Well, I don't know about you, but for me, it's definitely the case that I am most untrustworthy of the things of this world when bad things happen. Especially when like major bad things happen in the midst of incredible anxiety attacks, when friends of mine have died, when I lost my job. These major things happen, and you sit back like, whoa, what was I putting all this hope in? I thought my life is set because I have this job. Eventually I was going to lose the job. Eventually I'd be too old to teach it, right? Why did I think that this thing was going to sustain me for eternity? It couldn't. And what's worse here is that all the time that you spend garnering all these things in this world, that perfect job that you really wanted, and the stuff that you really wanted, and the romance that you really wanted, all that time that you spent in doing those kinds of things, you could be spending pursuing something that would actually make you happy. You could spend that time pursuing knowledge of God, or a relationship with God, or something like that. So One possible reason why God might allow evil is because it sort of jostles us out of our comfort with the stuff of this world, because the stuff in this world isn't what we really want. It's not what's really going to make us happy. So one reason God might allow evil is because it refocuses our vision onto the thing that would make us truly happy, that would give us this inexhaustible happiness, the thing that is infinitely good, unlimited in its goodness, the thing that we could never lose, the thing that will make us live forever, that thing being God himself. Now, what does all this have to do with a megaphone? Why is this the megaphone response? Because I got this from philosopher C.S. Lewis. He said, I can't remember what work of his it was in, but he says, God whispers to us in our pleasures, he speaks to us in our conscience, but he shouts to us in our pains. Pain is God's megaphone to a deaf world. It's what gets our attention, right? And focuses us on the thing that will truly give us what we want, will make us truly happy. Now, one objection I could still think of to this argument is, but shouldn't it be my choice? Granted, okay, he given this evil is gonna actually refocus my life onto something that would actually make me happy, but I still should have the choice to be able to do whatever I want to, right? I should still have the choice to be able to not have this evil stuff happen to me. And I get that. Here's what I would say though. Imagine you have a friend of yours that has got everything going well in her life, and is just like one day, hey, you know how I lent you those $20 last week? Could you pay me back? I want to go try crystal meth. And let's say that you work with meth addicts, and you have pictures on your phone of the people that you work with, and what the stuff that it does to you, and them pleading, please don't get hooked on crystal meth. Look what happened to me, or something like that. And you know that if you ask your friend, hey, do you mind if I show you this stuff that's going to make you very uncomfortable and make you not want to do the crystal meth, that your friend is going to say, no, I don't want to see those things. But you know that if you show her those things, then at least there's a good chance that she will not do crystal meth. Which would you do? Would you give her the $20 back, or would you show her the video without asking? Well, I think it would be worth it. I think you'd be a good friend by showing her the video. If you can dissuade her from destroying her life, if you can dissuade her from making the decision that would not make her happy in the long term, that maybe would give her some pleasure in the beginning, but not truly make her happy, then I think you would be a bad friend if you didn't show her that video. Now, of course, it's still, up to her what she wants to do, even after seeing those videos. If she wants to say, yeah, I don't care, I'm still going for it, then then you go for it. And I think that's really the situation we have here. God allows evil because he allows us to make these choices, right? He wants us to make these choices knowingly and to see, these things aren't actually going to make you happy. Turn towards me. And then we are given the choice. Do you want to turn towards me? And at the end of our lives, we might say, no, I don't. I want to turn to the stuff that I want to. And if so, then I think we're left in that position of the Twilight Zone episode where God gives us everything we want. I don't know if this actually happens, but I think it would be interesting if God gave us just everything. Okay, you don't want, you're choosing to reject me. That's fine. Here are all the things you want. And my advice to you would be that you're not going to enjoy that stuff, right? Like, that's not going to be it. And imagine an eternity with all the stuff that you want, and it makes you sick. You realize this stuff ain't going to cut it. Do you really want that? In any case, that is one of the possible reasons why God might allow evil. This is a response to the logical problem of evil. I still have a couple of videos, maybe one video actually, to go through on this topic called skeptical theism. We're going to look at that position. But afterwards, we still are going to be looking at the existential problem of evil. If you were looking at all this and being like, oh, that's great and all, but what about me actually suffering? This is great on a video, but I'm really in pain and this really sucks. That is a different kind of a problem of evil than, why theoretically would God allow evil to exist? So we'll start getting into that pretty soon as well. In any case, if you have any questions, please feel free to hit me up on the comments, and I'd love it if you subscribed and hit the notification so you're sure about when our next videos come out. And that's all I got for you today. I'll see you next time. Adios.